When you think of fantasy in video games, novels, or any form of fiction, you would think of magic. Whenever there is magic, there is bound to be elemental magic. Elements are considered to be the pivotal part of any form of medium that has magic in its name and spells in its game. The same applies to Genshin, where the combat system heavily relies on elements and their corresponding reactions with each other. Hello everyone, Ethereal here with another guide video, and today we'll be taking a look at elemental reactions. Basics. To start things off, we'll take a look at the elements that we have right now. So Genshin has a total of 7 known elements, which are Pyro, Hydro, Cryo, Electro, Anemo, Geo, and Dendro. For convenience, let us split these elements into 2 groups. The first being dynamic elements and the second being static elements. So the dynamic elements are Pyro, Hydro, Electro, or Cryo, which can be derived as a PHEC as an easier way to refer to them as an acronym. These elements are dynamic because they can create elemental reactions with any elements in the game, aside from themselves of course. Meanwhile, the static elements are Anemo, Geo, and Dendro. These are considered static because they can only create elemental reactions with the elements in the dynamic group and not with the elements in the static group. Elemental reactions. Now that we got that out of the way, let's jump into the part where the magic happens. There are 2 main types of elemental reactions, and these are Amplifying Reactions and Transformative Reactions. Amplifying Reactions consists of 2 reactions, which are Melt and Vaporize. Melt is the reaction created when Cryo and Pyro meet, while Vaporize is the reaction you get when Hydro and Pyro meets. These reactions are considered amplifying reactions because they amplify the damage done by the element triggering the reaction. So here's how it works. Let's say there's a helical, and element B is applied onto it. While element B is still on the helical, element A is applied on it. As a result, the damage done by element A is amplified by 2 times. If it was the other way around, the damage is only amplified by 1.5 times. In practical terms, Melt does 2x damage if Pyro is applied to an existing Cryo aura, while the other way around would be 1.5. For Vaporize, it will do 2 times the damage if Hydro is applied onto an existing Pyro, and if it's the other way around, the damage is 1.5. Elemental Mastery increases the amplification done by these reactions. Now, let's look at the transformative reactions, and these reactions are Overloaded, Superconduct, Electro-Charged, Shattered, Swirl, Burning, Bloom, Hyperbloom, and Burgeon. Overloaded is the reaction created when Pyro and Electro meet, of which the reaction does an AoE pyro damage that can knock back small to medium-sized enemies. Small enemies would include slimes and helichals, while medium-sized enemies include metachals and fatui enemies in general. Superconduct is the reaction created when Cryo and Electro meet, of which it does an AoE cryo damage. Enemies affected by Superconduct will have their physical res decreased by 40%. This reaction is often used to buff the damage done by physical DPS characters such as Eula or Razor. Electro-Charged, also known as EC by different parts of the community, is the reaction created when Hydro and Electro meets, of which it deals electro damage to the targets affected by the reaction or enemies who are affected by Hydro or the wet status. This reaction in particular is quite unique for a few reasons. For most reactions, the elements creating them will disappear after reacting with each other. Sometimes the stronger elements will leave a lingering aura. Electro-Charge is unique because the reactions is not instantaneous or immediate. When Hydro and Electro meets, both elements will exist on the enemy for an extended period of time, where each Electro-Charge damage ticks will deplete the aura of both elements until either one of them is completely gone. This allows for multiple reactions to be made while both auras are still on the target. For example, applying Pyro on them would create Overloaded and Vaporize, while applying Cryo would create Superconduct and Frozen. On top of that, due to how the reactions work, you could trigger what we call a double swirl, which is essentially the swirl reaction, but it will swirl both Hydro and Electro since both elements coexist at the same time. Shattered is the reaction created when a heavy attack is done on enemies who are frozen. Heavy attacks include normal attacks done by Claymore characters, plunging attacks, or geo attacks. The reaction frees the enemies from the frozen status and does physical damage. Burning is the reaction created when Pyro and Dendro meets. It applies a burning aura where the enemy will lose HP over time until the aura is depleted. The burning aura is considered as pyro, thus reactions like overloaded, vaporize, and melt can be created if the respective element is applied. Note that this interaction will end the burning aura. Bloom is the reaction when hydro meets dendro, where a dendro core is produced. Only 5 of these cores can exist at a time, and producing more than that will cause the oldest one to expire immediately. From this, there are 2 advanced reactions, and these are Hyperbloom and Burgeon. Hyperbloom is a reaction created when Electro is inflicted on the dendro cores. Once affected, the core will turn into a sprawling shot, which is essentially a homing dendro core that does single target damage. On the other hand, Burgeon is what you get if Pyro is inflicted on the dendro cores. When this happens, the core explodes, dealing an increased AoE dendro damage. Keep in mind that one target can only take 2 instances of damage from these Bloom-related reactions every 0.5 seconds. Why, you may ask? Probably just a way to balance the game and make sure that it doesn't nuke every healer chose in existence. Swirl is the reaction created when a Nemo is applied on a target that is already affected by Pyro, Hydro, Electro, or Cryo. The reaction deals elemental damage of the element it swirled in a 6-meter radius and simultaneously applies said element. This reaction cannot trigger if it is done the other way around. It is not possible for a Nemo to stay onto a target because it is not a lingering aura. All these transformative reaction damage can be increased through elemental mastery, and the base damage for all of them depends on the level of the character who triggered them. For the last few reactions that are not categorized for some reason, we have Frozen and Catalyze. Frozen is the reaction created when Hydro and Cryo meets, where small to medium-sized enemies will be frozen in place for a period of time. When enemies are frozen, they will maintain a frozen status, which is essentially a Cryo aura. Thus, applying Pyro to a frozen enemy will create Melt, while applying Electro will create Superconduct. Both reactions, however, will remove the frozen status from the enemy. Keep in mind that Frozen cannot be triggered on bosses, or rather it cannot immobilize them in any shape or form. As mentioned previously, Shattered can be triggered given the right conditions. Meanwhile, Catalyze is a group of 3 elemental reactions which involve Dendro and Electro. Quicken is triggered when Dendro and Electro is applied onto the target for the first time, where the Quicken aura will be applied on the enemy, and this aura will decay over time. Applying Dendro to an enemy affected by the Quicken aura will create Spread, while applying Electro will create Aggravate. These reactions will give the attack that triggered it a flat damage bonus. How it works is similar to how Yunjin's elemental bursts work for buffing normal attacks. The flat damage bonus can be affected by crit. This damage can be increased even further through elemental mastery, and the base damage bonus also depends on the character's level. With all this information, I hope you guys can learn something from this and utilize the elements and their respective reactions to your advantage. With the introduction of Dendro in version 3.0, I hope this is all the elements that we're going to get in Genshin, unless Hoyo decides to add another element, oh god. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video or find it helpful, subscribe for more, leave a comment down below if you have any feedback or questions you'd like to ask, and feel free to share this video to anyone who doesn't quite get how elemental reactions work in Genshin. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time, goodbye.